Ambassador Zixtar stood at the viewport of his diplomatic vessel, staring at the blue-green planet that hung in the darkness. Earth, home to the newest spacefaring species in the galaxy. His 4 arms twitched nervously as he adjusted his ceremonial robes for the 5th time. "Are you certain they understand the importance of this meeting?" he asked his aide. Limvok, a slender being with pale blue skin, nodded. "The humans have been informed that you represent the combined authority of 237 spacefaring civilizations. They have prepared a reception on their orbital station." Zixtar huffed. In his 300 years as a diplomat, he had overseen the integration of 12 species into the Galactic Council. The process always followed the same pattern: awe, gratitude, then eager acceptance of Council authority. There was no reason to believe humans would be any different. "Begin approach," he ordered, "and prepare the gift packages." The ship glided toward the human space station. It was a crude structure by Council standards, all right angles and exposed metal, with none of the elegant curves preferred by more advanced civilizations. The station's name, Artemis, was painted in large letters on its side. Inside the docking bay, a small group of humans waited. Zixtar studied them through the ship's cameras. They were dressed in blue uniforms with various badges and pins. Nothing like the elaborate robes and signifiers of status that Council races typically wore for first contact ceremonies. "They seem casual," Limvok observed. "Perhaps they don't understand proper protocol," Zixtar replied. "We will educate them." The diplomatic team disembarked, walking slowly down the ramp as they had done dozens of times before. Zixtar led the procession, followed by 6 aides carrying ornate boxes containing gifts and documents. A human with gray hair and a weathered face stepped forward. He wore more decorations than the others, their leader presumably. "Ambassador Zixtar," the human said with a small bow. "Welcome to Artemis Station. I'm Captain Frank Nelson of the Earth Defense Fleet." Zixtar raised all 4 arms in the traditional greeting of the Council. "I bring greetings from the Galactic Council, the unified authority of all civilized worlds. We welcome humanity to the galactic community and offer you the protection and guidance of races who mastered the stars when your kind still dwelled in caves." He expected gasps of awe or at least polite applause. Instead, Captain Nelson simply nodded. "Thanks for making the trip," Nelson said. "We've prepared a meeting room. Would you like to freshen up first, or should we get straight to business?" Zixtar blinked all 3 of his eyes in succession, a sign of confusion among his people. This was not how first contact ceremonies usually went. The traditional protocol suggests a formal exchange of gifts followed by a banquet before discussing matters of galactic importance, he said carefully. Nelson shrugged. "Sure, we can do that. We've got a conference room set up with some food and drinks. This way, please." The banquet turned out to be a simple buffet of Earth foods with name cards in front of each dish. The room was plain, with a large table and view screens showing Earth below. After a brief and awkward meal, during which the humans asked surprisingly direct questions about Council technology and trade practices, Nelson suggested they get down to brass tacks. Zixtar wasn't familiar with the expression, but understood the intent. He motioned to his aides, who opened the ornate boxes and removed several crystal tablets. "These contain the founding documents of the Galactic Council," Zixtar explained. "They outline the terms of Earth's entry into our Great Alliance. As a newly spacefaring race, you will be classified as a Category 3 developing world, with limited voting rights for the first 500 years. This is for your own protection, of course." He slid the tablets across the table. A human woman with short blonde hair picked one up. According to her uniform, her name was Admiral Catherine Wright. 500 years of limited rights?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "A mere moment in galactic politics," Zixtar assured her. "Many races have thrived under Council guidance. You will be assigned senior species who will help develop your economy and culture along approved lines." Nelson and Wright exchanged glances. "And if we don't sign?" Nelson asked. The question was so unexpected that Zixtar's skin briefly changed color, from its normal purple to a shocked yellow. "Not sign? I don't understand." Every race joins the council. It is the natural order of things. Nelson leaned back in his chair. See, that's the thing, Ambassador. Humans like to keep our options open. We appreciate the offer, but we might want to explore the galaxy on our own terms for a while. Zixtar's translator must be malfunctioning. He tapped it twice, but the translation remained the same. Perhaps I wasn't clear, he said slowly. The Council represents all civilized worlds. There are no options to keep open. Council membership is not optional for races that wish to participate in galactic society. Admiral Wright smiled. With all due respect, Ambassador, we've reviewed the documents your advance team sent. There's nothing in there that says membership is mandatory. It's an invitation, and we're politely declining for now. The room fell silent. Even the other humans looked surprised at Wright's directness. Zixtar felt his breathing passages constrict. In 12,000 years of Council history, no species had ever declined membership. It was unthinkable. This is highly irregular, he managed to say. The Council will be most displeased. We don't mean any disrespect, Nelson said, though. His tone suggested he wasn't particularly concerned about the Council's feelings. We're just not ready to sign away our independence. Maybe in the future. But the trade opportunities, Limbach interjected, the technological advances, the protection from hostile races, you would forfeit all these benefits? We're pretty good at figuring out technology on our own, Wright said. As for trade, we're happy to establish bilateral agreements with any interested parties, and we've managed to protect ourselves so far. Zixtar felt dizzy. This was not in any of the diplomatic scenarios he had prepared for. His career might be over. The Council would blame him for this failure. I must consult with my superiors, he stammered. Nelson nodded sympathetically. Of course. In the meantime, how would you and your team like to attend a baseball game? We've set up a field in the zero-gravity section of the station. It's quite something to see. A game? Zixtar repeated, bewildered. Sure, Wright said brightly. Diplomacy doesn't always have to be about formal meetings. Sometimes it's good to just hang out and have fun. Hang out? Have fun? These were not concepts associated with proper diplomatic procedure. As the humans led the stunned delegation toward the recreation deck, Zixtar sent an urgent message to Council headquarters. Situation unprecedented. Humans rejecting standard protocols. Request immediate guidance. The response came back almost instantly. Impossible. No race rejects Council. Translator error suspected. Recalibrate and try again. Zixtar looked at the humans chatting casually as they walked ahead of him. Something told him this wasn't a translation error. Humanity was going to be trouble for the Galactic Council. Big trouble. The news of humanity's rejection spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Emergency meetings were called. Ancient protocols were reviewed. Nothing in 12,000 years of Council history had prepared them for a species that simply said no thanks to membership. 2 weeks after the failed first contact, the Council dispatched its most skilled negotiator, Grand Consul Thal of the Meridian Collective. His species resembled tall, thin humans with skin that changed color based on their emotions. Currently, as he prepared to board his diplomatic vessel, his skin was a deep blue of determination. You understand the importance of this mission, said Elder Vexmore, the oldest member of the Council. These humans must be made to see reason. Thal bowed. I have never failed to bring a species into the Council. The humans will join, Elder. I promise you this. The journey to Earth took 3 days at maximum speed. Thal spent the time studying everything known about humans. They were young as a species, but surprisingly advanced for their age. They argued constantly among themselves, yet united quickly against outside threats. They valued something they called freedom above almost everything else. Most concerning of all, they had already begun trading with the Krell hegemony, a collection of worlds that operated outside Council influence. This was unprecedented. New species didn't make independent alliances before joining the Council. They just didn't. Upthal's ship entered Earth orbit and was directed to land at a facility in a place called Geneva. Unlike Ambassador Zixtar, Upthal had requested to meet on the planet itself. Understanding a species meant experiencing their homeworld. A small group waited as he descended from his ship. At the front stood a man with dark hair and a well-trimmed beard. Next to him was a woman with auburn hair pulled back tightly. Grand Consul Upthal, the man said with a slight bow. I am United Nations Secretary George Martinez. This is my aide, Samantha Collins. Welcome to Earth. Upthal noticed immediately that this reception was more formal than the one Zixtar had received. Perhaps humans were learning proper respect. He bowed in return, his skin shifting to a polite green. I bring greetings from the Galactic Council, he said. I look forward to productive discussions. Martinez smiled. As do we. We've prepared comfortable accommodations for you and your staff. Perhaps you'd like to rest before our meeting tomorrow? Actually, Upthal said, I would prefer to see your world, to understand humans better. Martinez looked surprised but nodded. Of course, Ms. Collins will show you around Geneva. It's one of our most international cities. And so Upthal found himself walking through streets filled with humans of all shapes, sizes, and colors. They stared at him, but not with the fear or awe he expected. Many smiled or nodded. Some even waved. Children pointed and asked loud questions. Your people seem very comfortable with aliens, he remarked to Collins. She laughed. Science fiction prepared us pretty well. We've been imagining meeting aliens for centuries. Fiction? You based your first contact protocols on stories? Upthal's skin flickered yellow with confusion. More or less, Collins said. Plus we've had your advanced cultural package for a year now, and the Krell traders have been visiting for 6 months. Upthal stopped walking. The Krell have been here that long? Before official first contact? Collins nodded, leading him toward a cafe with outdoor seating. They detected our signals, same as you did. They just got here faster and didn't insist on a lot of protocols. They wanted to trade, we wanted to trade. Simple. This was worse than Upthal had imagined. The humans were already contaminated by Krell influence. He took a seat at the cafe, his skin darkening with concern. The Krell are known for their independent approach to galactic relations, he said carefully. But the Council offers structure, security, and prosperity through proven systems. Collins ordered 2 drinks from a server. Here's the thing, Grand Consul. Humans like options. The Council wants us to follow your rules and traditions for the next 500 years. The Krell just want to buy our music, art, and coffee beans. Coffee beans? Upthal repeated, confused. Collins smiled as the server brought 2 steaming cups. Try this. It's why the Krell keep coming back. Upthal sniffed the dark liquid cautiously, then took a small sip. His eyes widened and his skin flashed bright purple with pleasure before he could control his reaction. This is remarkable, he admitted. The Krell are paying premium prices, Collins said. No tariffs, no council regulations, no quotas. Just straight trade. Upthal set down his cup. But what about protection? The galaxy contains many dangers. So we've heard, Collins replied. But Earth has been defending itself against its own worst elements for thousands of years. We're pretty good at it. The next day, in a formal meeting room at the United Nations, Upthal presented the Council's new offer. Earth would be classified as a Category 2 developing world instead of Category 3. Voting rights would be limited for only 300 years instead of 500. Secretary Martinez listened politely, then shook his head. I'm afraid this doesn't address our fundamental concern, Grand Consul. Earth isn't interested in being classified as developing by anyone. But this is how all species join the Council, Upthal insisted, his skin flushing orange with frustration. It's tradition, and we respect your traditions, Martinez said. But they're your traditions, not ours. We prefer to make our own way. Just then, an aide hurried in and whispered something to Collins, who then leaned over to Martinez. The secretary's eyebrows rose. It seems, Martinez said, that our colony on Mars has just finalized a trade agreement with the Zorn amalgamation. They're interested in our solar panel technology. Upthal's skin went pale gray with shock. The Zorn? But they're not even council members. And you have a colony on Mars? Our records didn't show this. We established it last year, Collins explained. And yes, the Zorn contacted us directly. Is that a problem? It was a massive problem. Humans were expanding, making independent agreements, completely ignoring council territorial protocols. This wasn't just rejection of membership. It was rejection of the entire galactic order that had stood for millennia. Upthal's mission was failing. As the humans calmly discussed their plans for further space exploration and additional trade agreements, he sent an urgent message to the council. Situation critical. Humans not only rejecting membership, but establishing independent galactic presence. Request immediate full council session to address unprecedented threat to established order. As he sent the message, Collins offered him another cup of coffee. Despite himself, Upthal accepted it. His skin betrayed him again, flashing purple with pleasure as he sipped. You know, Collins said conversationally, we've been experimenting with growing coffee beans in different gravity environments. The ones from Mars taste even better. Upthal had a sinking feeling that the Council's troubles with humanity were just beginning. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from over 200 species filled the vast chamber, their voices creating a storm of worried chatter. At the center of the hall, the 12 High Counselors sat in a circle, their ancient faces grim. Order, called out High Counselor Zuthvale, his voice booming through the hall. We must have order. The room gradually fell silent. All eyes turned to the holographic display hovering above the center of the circle. It showed a map of known space with a small blue dot representing Earth. Around it, like ripples in a pond, red lines extended outward, showing human movements and contacts with other species. In just 3 months since first contact, Zuthval said, the humans have established diplomatic relations with 14 non-council races. They have set up trading posts in 6 star systems. They have shared technology with the Zorn amalgamation and cultural exchanges with the Krell hegemony. Murmurs of shock ran through the assembly. This cannot continue, said Councillor Yex Mora, her tentacles waving in agitation. We must take action. What do you suggest? Asked Upthal, who stood at the edge of the circle. His skin was a troubled gray. They have rejected all our offers. Then we must force them to see reason, said Commander Drathvox, rising from his seat among the military representatives. His massive armored form towered over the other delegates. I propose a blockade of their world until they agree to council terms. Cheers of approval echoed through the hall, especially from the younger species who were eager to prove their loyalty to the council. A blockade would be an extreme measure, cautioned Elder Zarmathon, the oldest member of the council. No species has ever required such treatment. No species has ever refused council membership, countered Drathvox. These humans are a threat to galactic order. After hours of debate, the vote was taken. The result was clear. Earth would be blockaded until it accepted council authority. Commander Drathvox was given command of the operation, with 20 warships at his disposal. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Alicia Monroe stood at a podium in the White House Rose Garden. Dozens of reporters from around the world pointed cameras and microphones at her. Fellow citizens of Earth, she said, her voice calm and steady, I have an important announcement to make. In response to the growing interest in Earth from our galactic neighbors, I am pleased to announce the first Galactic Cultural Festival, to be held in 6 major cities around the world next month. Behind her stood representatives from 8 alien species, none of them members of the Galactic Council. This festival will showcase the best of Earth's cultures, from music and art to cuisine and sports. In return, our guests will share their own cultural treasures with us. This is not formal diplomacy. This is friendship, pure and simple. The foreign representatives applauded. Reporters shouted questions. Madam President, has the Galactic Council been invited? Monroe smiled. Of course, all spacefaring species are welcome. This isn't about politics, it's about people getting to know each other. In his office at the Pentagon, General Howard Phillips watched the press conference on a screen. Next to him stood Science Officer Daniel Patterson, who was studying a holographic display of a ship design. "The Council won't like this," Phillips said. "They're used to controlling all interspecies relations." Patterson nodded, adjusting something on the hologram. "According to our friends from the Krell, the Council is already planning a response. Probably a blockade." Phillips frowned. "Can they do that? Just lock down our whole planet?" "They can try," Patterson said with a small smile. "But they might find it harder than they expect." He pointed to the hologram. "The hyperdrive we adapted from the Zorn technology is more efficient than anything the Council has. Their ships are bigger, but ours are faster." "How many vessels do we have ready?" Phillips asked. 12. Not enough to fight their fleet, but more than enough to slip past a blockade. 3 weeks later, Commander Drathvox's flagship, the Immutable Order, took up position in Earth orbit. 19 other warships spread out to form a blockade net around the planet and its moon. "Blockade is in position," reported his second-in-command. "No ships can enter or leave Earth space without our permission." Drathvox nodded, his heavy jaw set in a satisfied expression. "Send the message to their leaders. They will learn that the Council is not to be ignored." The message was sent. The response came an hour later, in the form of a small package transported directly to the bridge of the Immutable Order. Drathvox's security team scanned it carefully before allowing him to open it. Inside was a bag of coffee beans and a handwritten note from President Monroe. "Thought you might enjoy these while you wait. We'll bring you some fresh cups when we get back." "Get back?" Drathvox growled. "Back from where?" The answer came 2 hours later when sensors detected a small human vessel appearing from nowhere, well beyond the blockade line. Before Drathvox could order pursuit, it vanished again. "How did they get past us?" he demanded. His science officer looked up from her console, her face troubled. "They didn't, Commander. They went around us through hyperspace. They're using transit points that aren't on any of our charts." Over the next few days, the pattern repeated. Human ships appeared and disappeared at will, completely ignoring the blockade. They carried trade goods, diplomats, and even tourists to and from Earth. One particularly bold captain sent a message to the Immutable Order as his ship zipped past. "Leaving a gift basket for you in Sector 7. Fresh bread, cheese, and some more. Of that coffee you folks seem to like. See you on the return trip." After 2 weeks, the Council ships had intercepted exactly 0 human vessels. Instead, they had collected 17 gift baskets, each containing Earth delicacies and friendly notes. In the Grand Hall of the Council, Commander Drathvox stood before the High Councilors, his proud posture now rigid with humiliation. "The blockade has failed," he admitted. "The humans have mapped hyperspace routes unknown to our cartographers. They come and go as they please." "Impossible," whispered Counselor Yex Mora. "Our maps have been perfected over thousands of years." "Nevertheless," Drathvox growled, "they are bypassing us completely. Worse, the news has spread. 3 younger Council races have already contacted Earth directly, ignoring proper protocols. They wish to attend this cultural festival." Elder Zarmathon's ancient eyes narrowed. "This situation is unprecedented. These humans are not merely rejecting our authority, they are creating an alternative to it." "Then they must be stopped," said High Counselor Zuthval. "By any means necessary." The words hung in the air, heavy with threat. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Council was considering military action against a newly discovered species, not for aggression or violation of Council space, but for the simple crime of saying no to them. As the Council debated, a human ship named Swift Venture slipped into hyperspace, carrying Ambassador Nicole Blackwood to meetings with 7 more non-Council races. In her briefcase were invitations to the Galactic Cultural Festival and proposals for a new kind of interstellar association, one without hierarchies or 1,000-year waiting periods. The Galactic Council's carefully ordered universe was starting to unravel, one human handshake at a time. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Delegates shouted over each other. Some pounded their appendages on desks. Others huddled in small groups, whispering urgently. The 12 High Counselors struggled to maintain order. Trilarian Confederation has withdrawn from Council oversight. The Vor cluster is requesting direct trade agreements with Earth. 3 more species have accepted invitations to this cultural festival. High Counselor Zuthval raised all 6 of his arms, calling for silence. We must not panic. The Council has stood for 12,000 years. It will not be undone by one primitive species. But the panic was real. In just 5 months since first contact, humanity's refusal to join the Council had sparked a chain reaction. Younger member species were questioning traditions. Ancient rules were being challenged. The careful hierarchy that kept the galaxy in order was beginning to crack. We have received a disturbing report, announced Counselor Yexmora. The humans have established formal diplomatic relations with the Krell hegemony. The chamber fell, silent. The Krell had been Council enemies for millennia. That cannot be permitted, growled Drathvox, still smarting from his failed blockade. How do you propose to stop it? Asked Elder Zarmathon. Our blockade was a humiliating failure. The humans come and go as they please. On the bridge of the Eye, Earth vessel Intrepid. Lieutenant Susan Harris adjusted her uniform and checked her appearance one last time. First impressions were important, especially when meeting former enemies of humanity's new friends. Ready, Lieutenant? Asked Captain Eric Donovan. Harris nodded. As ready as I'll ever be to meet a species that looks like a cross between a crocodile and a praying mantis. Donovan smiled. The Krell may look intimidating, but according to our Zorn friends, they're straightforward dealers. They value honesty and boldness. Which is why they hate the Council, Harris said. Too much talk, not enough action. Precisely, and why they're interested in us. Donovan pointed to the view screen, where a massive angular ship was approaching. Right on time. The Krell warlord Thekvak was not what Harris expected. Yes, he had the fearsome appearance all Krell shared. Armored skin, too many teeth, and limbs that seemed designed for combat. But his manner was formal, almost courteous. You are the first humans I have met, he said after the initial greetings. My people have heard much about yours. All good things, I hope, Harris replied with a small smile. Thakvak made a sound. That might have been laughter. That you refuse to bow to the Council, that you trade freely with all who deal fairly, that you make this coffee drink. Donovan gestured to a table where cups of steaming coffee waited. Would you care to try some? 2 hours later, the Intrepid and the Krell flagship moved in formation toward a neutral meeting point. Behind them followed 5 more ships from each side. The Council spies will be watching, Thakavak noted. They will not be pleased, Harris shrugged. The Council doesn't control who Earth can be friends with. No, Thakavak agreed, but they have tried to control such things for millennia. They will not surrender that power easily. In a secure conference room at United Nations headquarters, President Monroe met with her advisors. The room was filled with screens showing data about Earth's rapidly expanding cosmic relationships. The Galactic Cultural Festival begins next week, reported Secretary Martinez. We have confirmations from 32 species, including 7 current Council members attending unofficially. Monroe nodded. And the Council's response? They've issued a formal warning, said Phillips, now promoted to Admiral. Any Council member who attends our festival will face sanctions. Will that stop them? Monroe asked. Martinez smiled. Not according to our sources. Most are sending private citizens rather than official delegations. A transparent fiction, but it gives them plausible deniability. Science Officer Patterson, also present, pulled up a new display. Madam President, there's something else you should see. Our deep space probes have detected Council military vessels mobilizing at their central hub. Are they planning an attack? Monroe asked, her voice concerned but steady. Unlikely, Patterson replied. Even with their superior numbers, they know we have technologies they don't understand. More likely, they're preparing a show of force. Monroe considered this news. How are our own preparations coming along? The Terran Cooperative Charter is ready for presentation at the festival, Martinez said. 7 species have already indicated they'll sign immediately. Another 15 want to review it first. And the new ships? Patterson grinned. The Friendship-class vessels are even faster than we hoped. The Council won't know what hit them, figuratively speaking, of course. Meanwhile, in the seldom-used crisis chamber of the Galactic Council, the 12 High Councilors met in secret. No other delegates were permitted, and all recording devices were deactivated. The humans have gone too far, said Zuthval. This Terran cooperative they're proposing is a direct challenge to Council authority. According to our spies, said Yexmora, their charter promotes open trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense. They specifically reject hierarchical control. It will never work, scoffed another counselor. Galactic civilization requires structure, authority. Elder Zarmathon, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. Does it? We have believed. So for millennia, but perhaps we have been wrong. What are you suggesting, Elder? Zuthval demanded. That we have become too rigid, too controlling. These humans, with their independent spirit, have exposed weaknesses in our system that we have long ignored. The other counselors stared at him in shock. You sound as if you admire them, accused Drathvox, who had been invited to the secret session. I find them fascinating, Zarmathon admitted. In 5 months, they have accomplished what no other species has in thousands of years. They have made us question ourselves. Enough! Zuthval slammed a fist on the table. We must act decisively. I propose a final ultimatum. Earth joins the Council or faces complete isolation. We will order all Council members to cease all contact with humans. And if they refuse? Asked Zarmathon. They won't, Zuthval insisted. No single species can survive in this galaxy without Council support. The vote was taken, 11 in favor, with only Elder Zarmathon opposing. The ultimatum would be delivered immediately. On Earth, the preparations for the Galactic Cultural Festival continued. In New York, Tokyo, London, Rio de Janeiro, Nairobi, and Sydney, massive venues were prepared for visitors from across the stars. Special atmospheric containment areas accommodated species who couldn't breathe Earth air. Translation devices were tested and refined. President Monroe was reviewing the final security arrangements when the Council's message arrived. She read it silently, then looked up at her advisors. They're demanding we join the Council within 7 days or face complete galactic isolation. She set down the tablet with a small smile. They still don't understand us at all, do they? Martinez shook his head. They've lived in their rigid hierarchy for so long they can't imagine any other way. Well, Monroe said, they're about to get a very strong dose of imagination. Send the responses we prepared and make sure our guests know that the festival will proceed as planned, regardless of Council threats. As the sun set over Earth, messages streaked outward to dozens of worlds, carrying humanity's answer to the Council's ultimatum. It was not a long message, nor was it angry or defiant. It was simply an invitation to a party the likes of which the galaxy had never seen, where all were welcome and none would rule over others. The Galactic Council's perfect order was about to meet humanity's beautiful chaos, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath in anticipation. The day of the Galactic Cultural Festival arrived. Earth's skies filled with vessels of all shapes and sizes. They came from across the galaxy, some openly, others in secret. Council threats of sanctions were ignored as ships descended toward the 6 host cities. In New York, the transformed Central Park hummed with activity. Atmosphere domes housed species who couldn't breathe Earth air. Translation devices hung like decorative lanterns, converting dozens of languages simultaneously. Music from 100 worlds merged in a strange but beautiful harmony. Ambassador Nicole Blackwood stood at the main entrance greeting arrivals. Though exhausted from weeks of preparation, she couldn't stop smiling. This was what diplomacy should be, not rigid protocols, but a genuine exchange of cultures. Ambassador Blackwood, called a familiar voice. She turned to see Upthal approaching, his skin a nervous yellow. Grand Consul, she said, surprised. I didn't expect to see you here. Unofficially, of course, he said quietly. The council forbade attendance, but he gestured around at the gathered species. This is too important to miss. Blackwood offered him a cup of coffee, which he accepted with a flicker of purple pleasure on his skin. Your council sent us an ultimatum, she said. The deadline expires today. Upthal nodded. I know. I advised against it, but I was overruled. The council is frightened. Of us? Blackwood asked, genuinely surprised. Of change? Upthal clarified. The council has ruled for so long that it cannot imagine any other way. As they talked, more guests arrived. Among them was Thikvak of the Krell, his armored form drawing nervous looks from council species. But the Krell warlord simply nodded politely and accepted a sample of Earth food from a passing server. In London, Tokyo, and the other host cities, similar scenes unfolded. Ancient enemies stood side by side, sampling each other's cuisines and arts. Young members of council races mingled freely with non-council species, exchanging ideas and forming friendships. On the lunar colony New Armstrong, William Baker watched the events unfold through a series of screens. As Earth's leading historian, he had been documenting the rapid changes since first contact. This is unprecedented, he told his assistant, pointing to data showing the number of ships in Earth orbit. 30 years ago, we were alone in the universe. Now we're hosting the largest gathering of species in known history. And the council is furious, his assistant noted. Baker nodded. They would be. We've broken all their rules simply by being ourselves. Meanwhile, in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, emergency sirens wailed. Reports flooded in from across council space. 7 member races had openly defied the ban on attending Earth's festival. Dozens more had sent unofficial delegations. This is insurrection, shouted High Counselor Zuthval. They must be punished. With what forces? Asked Elder Zarmathon calmly. Half of our defense fleet commanders are attending the festival as we speak. It was true. Despite strict orders, many council military leaders had found excuses to be near Earth. Some claimed they were monitoring the situation. Others had taken sudden personal leave. All wanted to see the human phenomenon for themselves. Zuth Val slumped in his ancient chair. How has this happened? How has one primitive species caused such chaos in mere months? Zarmathon smiled slightly. Perhaps because they showed us something we had forgotten, that there are many ways to build a galactic community, not just ours. Back on Earth, as the festival reached its peak, President Monroe took the stage in New York. The crowd fell silent. Species from across the galaxy turned their attention to the small human female who had helped spark a galactic revolution. Friends, from near and far, she said, her voice translated into dozens of languages. Welcome to Earth. We are honored by your presence. She paused, looking out at the diverse gathering. 5 months ago, Earth learned we were not alone in the universe. We were offered a place in the Galactic Council, with one condition, that we surrender our independence for 500 years. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Council species looked uncomfortable. We said no, Monroe continued. Not out of disrespect, but because humans believe relationships should be built on equality, not hierarchy. Friendship, not control. She gestured to a group of humans who carried a large document onto the stage. Today I invite all who share this vision to consider joining the Terran Cooperative, not an empire, not a council, but a free association of equals. No race commands another. No species waits centuries for full rights. All contribute according to their abilities, and all benefit according to their needs. The document was displayed on large screens throughout the festival grounds. Its simple principles flashed in multiple languages: free trade among all members, cultural exchange without restriction, mutual defense against aggression, equal voting rights for all, regardless of age or development. No species may impose its values on another. This is not anti-council, Monroe clarified. Any council race is welcome to join while maintaining their council membership. We seek not to replace, but to offer an alternative. The response was immediate. A dozen species stepped forward to sign on the first day. By the end of the week-long festival, 38 had joined, including 5 former council races who chose to leave the ancient organization entirely. The council's ultimatum expired, without effect. Earth could not be isolated when so many species were now eager for human contact. 1 month after the festival, Commander Drathvox found himself in a strange position. After his failed blockade, he had expected punishment. Instead, he had been given a new assignment, cultural liaison to Earth. He stood now at the entrance to the new Terran cooperative headquarters on the lunar colony, watching ships come and go freely. No permits required, no lengthy approval processes, just simple registration and basic safety checks. "Still think we need to be controlled, Commander?" asked a voice beside him. He turned to see Lieutenant Harris, now serving as Earth's security coordinator. Drathvox sighed. "I thought galactic society needed structure hierarchy. And now?" Harris prompted. "Now I wonder if we needed a reminder that there are other ways." He gestured at the busy spaceport. "Your cooperative has achieved more in 6 months than the Council did in the last 100 years. In the grand hall of the Council, now half empty with so many delegations gone, Elder Zarmathon addressed the remaining members. "We face a choice," he said. "We can continue to demand obedience to our ancient ways, or we can learn from these humans." "Learn from primitives?" scoffed a delegate. "What could they possibly teach us?" "Adaptability," Zarmathon answered. "Openness to new ideas. The courage to question traditions." He pointed to a document on his desk. "I have studied their cooperative charter. There is wisdom in it. Perhaps—" He took a deep breath. "Perhaps the time has come for the Council itself to change." Silence fell over the hall. In 12,000 years, the Council had never changed its fundamental structure. The very suggestion seemed blasphemous, yet as the delegates looked around at their diminished numbers, reality began to sink in. The galaxy was changing, with or without them. On Earth, William Baker finished his daily journal entry with these words: "It has been exactly 1 year since first contact. 1 year since humanity learned we were not alone in the universe. In that time we have not conquered a single world, not fired a single shot in anger. Yet we have transformed the galaxy more profoundly than any invasion could have. The Council representatives arrive tomorrow to discuss terms of equal partnership between our organizations. The universe, it seems, had grown stagnant under their rigid control. All it needed was a species stubborn enough to simply say no to someone else's rules. Historians often speak of empires built by force of arms. But humanity's greatest achievement may be an empire built on nothing more than coffee beans, rock music, and the simple human tendency to make friends wherever we go."